morning, everyone, and welcome back to Epcot. Today, I'm going to try my best to answer a question that's been asked of me so many times, and it's such a good question. It is such a good question, a question that's been in our community for years. What is the youngest that you should bring a child to Walt Disney World? Now, I should note that before I attempt to answer this question, and it's going to be an attempt, by the way, I should note that I do not have any children. I am not married. I've seen what it's like to experience Disney through the eyes of a child myself, and I know a few cousins who have kids of their own who have brought them to Disney, so that's where I'm coming from. That's where my perspective is. But I've also seen a lot of families, kind of just in passing, and I want to just give you my thoughts, just a few of my thoughts about the appropriate age to bring a child. Now, let's first address the Florida resident version of this question. Any age is a great age to come to Walt Disney World. Okay, I believe that, many others believe that, but let's say you have to come from further away. You know, it's actually, you take a plane, get a resort, those things. That's what this video is about. If you're bringing a child on vacation with you, how old should they be? Another note, there is no right answer. There is no right answer, but first, my thoughts. Right off the bat, I believe that a child can have magical memories by looking back at photos. I believe that my first memory at Walt Disney World was on the teacups when I was, I think about, I want to say 4 or 5, I don't know 100%, maybe 5 years old, something like that. And I remember it, I was with my mom, it was amazing, a great time laughing, smiling. And as much as I don't remember all the interim times, I do remember pieces of it. And then I've got pictures to remember the rest. So this is a very personal question. Again, just want to readdress that, very personal, up to you, but my 2 cents here. I believe that when you bring a child to Disney, you instill a kind of family connection in them. The question is, how old do you have to be to understand the family connection? Many philosophers will tell you that the family bond is established at birth or even before. Some say before. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I believe I had that family connection very early on, even before I had my first memory. Those special memories can be tied to all sorts of things. Of course, voices, big part of it, pictures, looking back, and even smells. Smells of food, for example. Here at the Feast of the Three Kings, finishing off that cookie stroll, the chocolate crinkle cookie to be exact. I'm also going to try that tropical eggnog. Sounds awesome. The last cookie in the cookie stroll, the chocolate crinkle cookie from the Feast of the Three Kings, looks delicious. Super excited about this one. Also have the non-alcoholic tropical eggnog. Sounds amazing. Let's try that cookie first. A truly delicious chocolate cookie, almost like a chocolate cake inside there. Super, super good. Is a tiny bit dry, just a tiny bit, just a little bit more kind of moisture in there would help a lot, in my opinion. Second only to the Linzer cookie. Now for the non-alcoholic tropical eggnog, smells tropical. Smells tropical. Cheers. Very strange. I mean, I like the flavor, but I don't know if I'd go out of my way for this one. It's sweet. It's got a kind of eggnog flavor. This is extremely difficult to describe here. Hold on. Problem is, it's a little bit chunky, and I don't know if it's supposed to be chunky. You know when you drink something and you get little chunks in it and you're like, is that supposed to be it's super scary. I'm guessing it is supposed to have little chunks in it, and the flavor is not bad. Not bad at all, but I do not think I'd go out of my way for it. I would get the crinkle cookie again in no time. Yum. Now, thinking about kids coming to Disney, could a taste, could a smell relate back to a really happy family memory? And at what age does it relate? I don't know. I'm not a philosopher, not a scientist. I have no idea. But I can distinctly remember whether it was, I'm trying to think, Ohana. It was Ohana bread pudding, or most of them were at Ohana or Cape May. There were memories way back when of Ohana and Cape May. And I loved it. And I can remember back times when I would really, really smile and enjoy and just think on happy times, and remember the happy times in times that weren't so happy, whatever it was, whatever I was going through, whatever was happening, I could always think back about family time at Disney and smile. And that was from when I was a kid. At what age do memories like running through the water kind of click with you? At what age do you remember moments like that? And does the memory even matter, or is it just the smiles? Is it just the happiness you feel? The exact age of when memory begins is totally debatable, and I have no idea when it is. But there is a point when, you're bringing a child to Disney, and it's more for the parents, it's more for the other family members, and the pictures and the memories that you create as the adult with the child as they grow up. And I think that's an important point as well. I believe that happy family times can happen anytime for anything. There's no specific thing that has to happen to make it a happy family time. Even getting soaked by the jumping fountains can make memories that last a lifetime. Now let's get into some of the specifics. Let's think about a child between the ages of, let's say, newborn to 2 years old. Let's just use that as an example. And I should note, any child in that age range is free to come to Walt Disney World. No ticket charge. That's important. And in those moments, you can take pictures and say, you know, look, here we are celebrating together as a family early on. And here we are again when you're 12 and 17 and 25. Things like that. You can go back and you can remember and you can say, this is our family history. This is a documentation of our family legacy. At that young age, you can experience some of what Disney has to offer without going on some of those extreme attractions, or you can do rider swap and someone can stay with the child at that point. You can totally do that. So you can have a great adult vacation with a very young child, and you know, the child does not have to participate in Space Mountain, just as an example. But if you want to have a slower paced vacation, that could also be an option. Now, that being said, I don't know, raising children, I am no expert, so I can't say how much time that takes, but there is something to be said about having a younger child, making those memories, and being able to enjoy Disney at whatever pace you want, because you get to experience whatever you want. Child is there to enjoy it with you. Now, another question comes to mind. If you're a Disney enthusiast, you love Disney, you want to go to all the openings, you want to see everything that's new, you want to be there for all of it, and you want to go every single year, and you're thinking about starting a family, or maybe you just started a family, should that stop you from going and experiencing some of those things? Now, there are other factors that may prevent you. Maybe there's back to school night on certain days that make it impossible. Whatever it is that prevents you from doing those things, totally understandable. But sharing in those moments together, in my opinion, is a big part of it. It's a big part of it. And I remember my family and I would come to Disney and experience new things together. Now, we didn't go for openings. That's something that we started doing together. It's a little bit different. But it never hurts to create family memories doing whatever it is that you're passionate about. I feel like the child you're with will also be passionate about it, but that's just my thoughts. Now, one of the most common thoughts I hear about bringing a child to Disney is, Michael, I want my child to remember the vacation. I want them to remember those magical experiences. Yes, we have pictures, we have merchandise, whatever I'm bringing back, but I want them to remember it. I want them to savor that moment for years to come. What's the appropriate age for that? Well, that is a very personal decision. You have to make that decision. But if I'm thinking about it just to myself, I'm thinking somewhere between the ages of 5 and 7. It's true that if you're a little bit younger, you will remember those experiences, no doubt about it. But if you're between 5 and 7, you'll hang on to moments like this, and you say to yourself, oh, you know what? I remember seeing these fish when I was a little kid. I remember walking around these tanks or in this area or saying hello to this yellow fish right here when I was a little kid. There's something to be said for that, creating those memories that really link and really stick with a child, at least from what I know. Again, this is all personal opinion. Now, if you're thinking about the educational component, and I know that a lot of parents are thinking about that when they're thinking about bringing their child to a destination, and Disney World, you're thinking rides and shows, absolutely, no question about it, but Disney still does focus at least a little bit on the educational pieces of it. So you can learn about lionfish or seahorses or whatever it is in the land pavilion, just as one example, or living with the land in the land pavilion to teach you how to live with the land, teach you about plants, whatever it is. They still do have educational components, and I think that is really important, something the child and adults alike can take away for the future. Of course, as you know, Disney is great for attractions just for kids. Turtle Talk with Crush is a great example of that. Kids of all ages are part of that show and other shows around Walt Disney World, so there's no doubt a lot of things for kids to do at Disney. Now, there is another debate in our community about the age of a child coming to Disney. If they're too young, sometimes they can't experience everything that Disney has to offer, or maybe they don't understand or remember it all. But if they're too old, perhaps they realize that, not without spoiling anything for the younger audience, some of those magical experiences, the details behind the magic, let's just say it that way, the details behind the magic, how the magic works. Does it make sense? Okay. Sometimes if you have an older child, they'll understand how it works. And that, I can understand how a lot of parents might say to themselves, you know what, that's not what I want. I want the child to fully embrace the magic, fully to say, oh my gosh, this is it. And if that's important to you, than younger. Now, one advantage of bringing a smaller child to Disney is you don't have to worry about school as much. And I know that a lot of parents do think about that when thinking about family vacations. Does my child have to be pulled out of school? Some parents feel like it's okay. Some feel like it's not okay to be pulled out of school. Totally up to you, totally your decision. I can see it both ways. But, you know, I can see how that could be a little bit easier with a younger child. On a side note, my parents took me out of school all the time for Disney. It was different times back then, though, I realized that. But, you know, I thought it was a fantastic experience. Of course, height is another factor when it comes to a child at Disney. Some of the attractions at Disney do have a height limit. 42 inches is one of the higher ones, but, you know, it's always changing because there are new rides coming out all the time. So it's just something to be thinking about. If your child is younger, they're going to be smaller and they may not be able to ride all of the latest and greatest attractions. Now, that being said, some rides have multiple height limits. For example, Mission Space, you can be 40 inches and still enjoy it. You have to go on green, but you can enjoy it at 40 inches. You do need to be 44 to ride Mission Space Orange, but maybe you don't prefer it. Maybe you actually prefer Mission Space Green. Don't worry, you are not alone there. And in that case, you're good to go. Now, one area where you don't have to worry about the child's age at all is merchandise. Merchandise at Disney is like top notch. They can find something for every age group, from the young to the young at heart. Merchandise is no problem. No problem at all. You'll find something. Guarantee it. Now, there's no doubt that Epcot is made for the entire family. No doubt about it at all. But during festivals like the Food and Wine Festival and some others, it can feel like it's made mostly for adults. And it is, and that's not a bad thing. Adults can enjoy the festivals along with the kids as well, but in a different way, in a different style. You have to think about that when you're thinking about, you know, bringing a child with you to Disney to experience just the Food and Wine Festival, for example. Would that work? Would that work for your style? Do you just want to eat around the world? Totally up to you, but it's just another factor to keep in mind. Another important factor to consider when thinking about a Disney trip with a child is to think about that surprise factor, especially for that first trip. I know a lot of parents want to surprise their kids their very first time at Disney, whether it's picking them up at school or we're on our way to the airport or we're in the car almost there. Well, no matter how you want to surprise the child, and you don't have to, but a lot of parents love to do that, it's something else to consider. How do you want them to react? It has to do with that age of just being enchanted by everything. Now, to address the question in a different way, a couple friends have asked me, Michael, what if this is a once-in-a-lifetime vacation? It happens once and then we may never go back. It may be 5 years, 10 years. It'll be a long time before we get back again. Then, how old would you recommend the child should be? That's, oh my gosh, it's a very difficult question, but if you're thinking about if you want them to experience it all, remember it all, and say, I would love to go back again one day, you got to think about that age that they'll be able to remember. And most things, be able to take it in, appreciate it, be surprised, be in awe, be appreciative of the magic, and be able to think it through enough to say, okay, I do want to go back again one day. So it's just something to consider. Maybe it's 7 years old, 8 years old, somewhere in there. I can totally understand wanting to wait until that age to make it that once-in-a-lifetime experience. It would make sense. That being said, if you want to capture that magical moment where they want to meet Elsa, and they're 4 years old, it's got to happen, or, you know, Cinderella's been their favorite for years. It's something that, you know, has to be weighed out. Is it that time period where they want to meet the princesses and, you know, want to see all the smaller Disney details, or is it something where they really want to go on these new rides, these new attractions, want to introduce them to these things at that age? It's a very personal decision, but those are just factors to weigh. There is another factor that I haven't addressed yet. It's the idea that the child will be speaking to other children about, hey, I went to Disney World and had a great time, and what age that's going to happen. Well, that's going to happen as young as kindergarten, I would imagine. Maybe, probably not before that. But somewhere in there, all the way till elementary school, possibly into middle school, I had a great time at Disney World. And, you know, as the parent, you're going to say, okay, now we got to go to Disney World. After these conversations start to happen, it's another factor. Again, all these factors lead up to when is the best age for me, my child, my whole family to go to Disney together. And it's totally up to you, just things I want you to think about. One more factor to consider when you're thinking about all these things is endurance. Disney, as you know, is a lot of walking out in the sun, having a great time, and, you know, I love it. I love it so much. But some younger kids are going to need to take a break halfway through the day or take a nap. There's something to consider. Is it something that you're comfortable with, or maybe actually you prefer to take that break halfway through instead of having a 12-year-old who wants to run the entire time? I've seen it from both perspectives. When I watch other guests around the parks, there's some who the kids are dragging them, and there are others that have kids in strollers who are passed out. Deciding what age is best to bring your child to Walt Disney World is not an easy question to answer, not even close. And I'm not going to say what is the best age. There is no best age. It really depends on you, what you want to experience, what you think would be best for you and your family. That's the end of the conversation right there. But I hope a few of these ideas gave you some thoughts about what the best age would be if maybe you have a younger child now, you're thinking about a family in the future, you're just considering, is it time yet? Is it that time? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Thanks so much for being a part of the magic with me today. Until next time, have a magical day.